Hi everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Ungrownups video transmission. I'm your host Mark, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Star Trek, the original series, Diamond Select, Mr. Spock, and Captain Kirk. Now these are the online exclusive versions. Now I don't really know if they're actually online exclusive, but I do know that these are the only figures that you can get in this capacity. The only way you can get them is you can get them online. I got these from BigBadToyStore.com. There's a link below for both of them, so please head over and check those out. And they run about $22 a piece there. Now, if you guys remember, we actually reviewed these figures about a week or so ago, and these are the versions that we got from Toys R Us. The Toys R Us exclusive versions were a little cheaper. They were $14.99, and as you can see, they didn't come with nearly as much stuff. You can actually see that Kirk comes with Khan, which is a fantastic accessory, another complete figure. He actually comes with a piece of the engineering deck. He comes with extra hands, extra legs, pipes. He actually comes with a lot of stuff, whereas this Kirk just came with the base and the sculpted blaster hand. Everybody wanted to know why was he leaning over? Well, he's leaning over because he's going to be in this lunging attack pose for Khan. That's the whole purpose for that. Over here with Spock, you can see the Spock comes with two different tricorders, one open, one closed, a different set of hands, a different head sculpt, a different set of legs. He actually comes with the Horta and the cave diorama from the classic first season episode. So spinning these guys around here on the back, and moving these guys back out of the way, you can see that they do have respective pictures on the front or on the side, whereas the Toys R Us exclusive versions didn't use Spock, they only used Kirk. And you can see the way the diorama base is set up and actually work out. And if you notice, the typo is still there. Half human and half Vulcan. Mr. Spock was the science officer. So we pointed that out on the Toys R Us version package. It looks like they didn't fix it when copying and pasting that copy over here to the back of this package. So absolutely fantastic set of figures. I was already contemplating picking up an extra one of these, either one, just so that I would have an extra set of legs to sort of, pass between the two so that Kirk wasn't always bent over. But after picking these guys up, it looks like Kirk will have an extra pair of standing legs because, as you guys know, the torsos and legs are swappable. So you can actually put, between these two sets, you have 4 different configurations with legs. And it does look like the hands, they look like they're identical. It looks like both hands are used. This one is for, communicating with the Horta, and this one may be for shoving Khan. I'm not sure, but just at first glance, they look like they're the same. So let's get these fantastic figures opened up and check out all the different accessories they come with. Okay, so here we have Spock opened up out of the package, all of the accessories laid out. You can see everything he comes with. And, honestly, I can't really tell a difference between this figure and the figure that was released in the Toys R Us exclusive versions. For all intents and purposes, they're exactly the same. They're in the exact same stance. They both have a phaser sculpted into their right hand. The left hand is gesturing the exact same way. The head sculpt's exactly the same. So, as far as that goes, if, you're on a limited budget or you can only find these figures at Toys R Us versus trying to get them online, you want to go with a cheaper, less accessoried version, these are completely adequate versions to pick up. The Toys R Us versions, they're fantastic figures. So they're exactly the same. You can see here he does come with hands that look like he's reaching out with his mind, almost like using the Force. I know that's sacrilege to mix genres or mix whatever, I know, I'm just saying. And you can see that here he has a tricorder, 2 tricorders. This one is opened, this one is closed. It seems like they could have just made one that opened instead of giving you 2 different versions, but along with the Toys R Us version, we have 1, so now we have 3 all together. You can see he's got more of a grimacing face. This is sort of like reaching out with his mind when he mind melds with the Horta from the episode Devil in the Dark, I believe. And you can see he does come with a set of crouching, kneeling down legs, which is really cool. And again, this set of legs is also swappable with the Kirk figure. When it comes to the diorama base, here you can see that there's sort of like a tunnel part cut out over here. Very nice. Here, let's get Spock off of there, lift this up. You can see there's two sets of foot pegs, one for him standing, one for him kneeling. That's a really nice effect. But you can see the diorama base here. The Horta is made onto the base. It doesn't come off. It is not removable. That would have been really nice. But they did add a little feature to where you can remove this part and you can see part of the inside of it. So that's kind of neat. This doesn't connect with a magnet or anything. It's just kind of sculpted to fit in one position, and it will kind of fall off from time to time. But I do have to admit, this base is really nice. I love the brushwork, the dry brushing on here. Looks very rocky. Looks really cool. I just wish that you could have taken the Horta off and then used this for Kirk. Or, you know, future figures. It could have been a really nice base if the Horta was removable, but it's not. So that's kind of a shame. I'm not going to go over articulation because, again, it's exactly the same as the Toys R Us exclusive versions. You can go back and watch that video for articulation. I do want to point out one thing that, like a bonehead, I forgot to mention on the first figures, and that is when I said that for all intents and purposes, the boots or the legs are completely immobile. There's no articulation. That is not true. Both of the figures, the Kirk and the Spock figures, are articulated at the top of the boot. I'm really not sure why, because the foot only works in that one position. You move it and it's not going to be able to stand up anymore. But nonetheless, it is articulated at the boot. There are foot pegs, of course. I just wanted to point that out because, like an idiot, I did not point that out. See, like, why would you want to move that? It becomes useless if you move the feet. So why don't we swap the legs, swap the hands, swap the head, and take a look at kneeling Spock or mind melding Spock. Okay, so you can see here we have the mind melding Spock. We have the new head on, and I'll say that the plug on the bottom of the neck is really tight because of the paint, and I found that I couldn't articulate the head until I actually plugged him in, and then I was able to break the paint seal. So if it looks like your neck peg won't actually bend or move, I wouldn't try forcing it outside of putting it on the body. Put it on the body and then move it up or down, and then that should break the paint seal pretty easily. But you can see here, he can reach out with his hands. And, you know, like the legs, both the hands are also swappable between Kirk and Spock. So you can get this guy in a fair amount of poses, albeit, you know, getting this thing out of the way. You can get him in a fair amount of poses, albeit the legs are not going to move. You know, you can swap out the hand for sort of the more hand-holding, grasping hand, and you can hear they snap in pretty tight. Sorry to do that off camera. I hate doing that, but you know, have him holding, you know, the open tricorder, sort of in a crouching sort of position, reading some readouts on the tricorder. And like I said, you can also put these legs on Kirk. So it really does make for, you know, despite them being static legs with very limited articulation only in the feet, it does sort of allow itself, the mix and match ability of it sort of allows itself to sort of be articulated in other ways, which is kind of cool. They're more of staction figures than anything else. So I know this guy's going to pop back up in the Kirk review, so let's go ahead and get him out of the way and look at Captain Kirk himself. Okay, so here's the Kirk set opened up out of the package, and, you know, I can say this set is equal parts totally amazing and very disappointing. And what I mean by that is I think the only thing that could possibly make this amazing diorama base back here you know, sort of pale in comparison and not even be the best accessory, it would be Khan. Moving these legs out of the way real quick, Khan is a fully realized figure, and that is amazing that this guy is considered to be an accessory. But the problem here with this full-blown figure is the fact that he is completely non-articulated. You can see that the arms were added after the fact. They were pieced on. The head was pieced on. The hands were pieced on, except for there is no mobility. There's no movement. The arms don't move. The hands do not turn in any way. The head does not turn. These are things that they could have built in. Maybe it would have raised the price. I'm not sure. But, there's no articulation at the waist. The feet don't rotate. I mean, there's absolutely nothing. There is a little hole right here, a square hole, and that is for him to sort of rest on the console here. And that's actually how he connects. He just kind of plugs right in, and he's sort of leaning back. But a fantastic likeness. We'll zoom in and take a look at his face. Really, really does look like Ricardo Montalban. Kirk over here, very similar to the Kirk we saw in the Toys R Us exclusive version, and he is sort of lunging, and he has sort of removed one of these pipes. That's, he took it out. It doesn't actually come from here, but it would have been right here, and he's removed that to sort of hit Khan, knock him out with it. He actually can remove this. I believe it's removable from his hand. But what this little hole here is for these legs. These are Kirk's second accessory legs, and what you can do is it's got a little hole. You plug this in. You would swap the body. And you actually can put this. Sorry, I actually had to put in a cut there because I found that it would be actually out of frame. But you can actually have Kirk sort of jumping in the air, either kicking or coming down with that pipe. So, they've built in a little Todd McFarlane, Matrix-esque sort of stand here, and it's really cool. It's a really neat accessory. Speaking of really neat accessories, let's get Khan out of here and let's get Kirk out of the air. And get this little piece out. And just looking at this part of engineering, you can see that there are 2 foot pads. That's for Kirk whenever he's standing. Very nicely detailed. As detailed as the set was in the original series. It's funny about this back piece here, and I really have to applaud Art Asylum on their inclusion of it, because the funny story is when the prototypes were shown initially, this was a piece of plastic. This as it is a piece of cardboard, but I think it was a piece of plastic, and Art Asylum said, okay, of course this is what's coming in the set. And then I believe when the set was shown at Toy Fair last year, I believe that this piece was missing, or even it may have been this year. I believe the piece was actually missing, and then I believe Art Asylum went on record as saying that to keep costs down, they were not going to be including it. I know that drew a little bit of fan reaction, saying that we really wanted that piece. It sort of made it, and it looked really nice. And I think that they did a really good idea by choosing to include it, but this time instead of plastic, it's actually cardboard. And what I really like about it is that you can turn it around, and they've put another piece in here that actually, if I'm not mistaken, looks more like, I don't know if this is part of the bridge. Okay, so looking at the 2 versions of Kirk, you have the online exclusive version here and the Toys R Us version here. You can see why the legs are sort of made in this lunging fashion, in this leaning over fashion that a lot of people complained about. I think it's because they didn't know that there was a different version that sort of explained why, and it's where he's leaning over. I will tell you that there's a noticeable difference in skin tone and even sculpting. The mass market version for Toys R Us is very soft on the details, and the sculpting doesn't look as good as the sculpting, and you can see this is much lighter and this is much darker. But this Kirk doesn't come with a hand with a phaser, so you would either have to use Spock's if you only got the online versions. So that means only one of them can have a phaser at one time. That's another added bonus for actually picking up both, which is kind of cool. But with the inclusion of the extra set of legs that come with Spock, you are able to sort of get Kirk in a pose where he doesn't look like he's falling over or being knocked over or leaning or pushing something over. So that is the differences between the 2. So why don't we zoom in and take a closer look at this online version Kirk. Okay, zooming in on the head sculpt, what I want to show off is what I meant by the sculpting is better. This is the online exclusive version, and this is the Toys R Us exclusive version. And you can see that the sculpting is different. There is more detail here. The details here on the Toys R Us version are a little soft. He's also a little shinier and a touch darker. He's more of a glossy paint, whereas this is more of a matte paint finish. So there is a little difference. I actually didn't really care too much for this head sculpt from Toys R Us. I actually thought it was passable, but this one I actually think looks a lot more like William Shatner from the original Star Trek series. To me, this looks much better. So as far as head sculpt, I don't know if that's across the board, a difference that you will consistently see, but it's something that I notice very well between these two figures. Okay, taking a look at Khan here, he looks really good. Looks very much like Ricardo Montalban. The sculpting is really nice. Just a lot of detail. I just really do wish there was some articulation, just so that he didn't always look like he's kind of like running away, or being knocked over. Even just foot articulation would have been nice, so he could stand on his own without having to be leaned across the console. But as you can see, lots of nice detail, even back here on the back with where he has his hair pulled back in a tie. Nice detail on the belt, and nice detail on the boots. Looks really great. Not quite an action figure, but also much more than just a regular accessory. This could be a figure on its own if they would have just taken the time to articulate it as much as Kirk and Spock are. So why don't we take a broad view of looking at all the figures and just see how many different poses we can actually get them in, even though they have static legs. Okay, so here are the various versions of legs mix match with torsos to give you the different looks. And any of these torsos can be used on any of these sets of legs. So you can have Kirk, that almost took everything out. You can have Kirk sort of bent down on one knee, either getting ready to fire or getting ready to smack somebody with a pipe, or lunge out. Or you can have, I think the only set of legs we don't have shown here are sort of like the lunging legs, and you could put these on Spock. You literally can do anything you want with mix and matching these figures up, especially if you have both versions, the online and the Toys R Us version. There's a lot of mixing and matching you can do here. But even if you only had one set or the other, one version or the other, you still could get a lot of poses. So while the static legs are a sticking point for some, and me included, I really think our Art Asylum has given us a lot of options, and making them swappable is fantastic. So I really applaud them for that. I would love to see more of the original cast come out. But unfortunately, I don't think that's the next figure up. The next figure on tap, I believe, is Picard, and he comes with a Borg base. So it looks like they're already moving on to the next generation. And if the next figure after that, I don't think has been released yet, but if we got, the captain and his first officer, and then the next one is the captain, it'd be sort of safe to think that probably Riker would be up next after that. So I'm really glad that that Art Asylum is tackling the older figures and the newer figures, and I really like what they're doing, and I can't wait to keep collecting these guys, because truth be told, I'm a Star Wars diehard Star Wars fan, through and through, but I really have sort of a soft spot for Star Trek. So maybe I'm a closet Trekkie, I'm not sure, but that's pretty much going to do it for this video. We're going to ask if you guys dug it. Please like, comment, or subscribe. Head over to facebook.com/ungrownups and join in the conversation. And please check out our podcast, which is new every 2 weeks, and you can check that out over at iTunes or stream it right off of ungrownups.com. So until next time, peace.